Most of us live as if life is somewhere else. It is in the next achievement, the next message, the next apology, the next version of ourselves. Or it is trapped in what already happened, a mistake, a loss, a conversation we keep replaying, a story about who we are and why we cannot change. Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now is built around one radical idea. The only place life can actually be touched is the present moment. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, not the story in your head. Now, this book is not a productivity manual, and it is not a collection of motivational tips. It is a spiritual guide about consciousness, but its practical value is very real. It explains why so much of our suffering comes from identification with thought, and why peace begins when we learn to observe the mind instead of obeying it. Tolle's first major lesson is that you are not your mind. That sentence sounds simple until you look closely. Most people assume the voice in their head is who they are. It comments, judges, worries, compares, predicts, remembers, and argues. Because it never stops talking, we mistake it for the self. But Tolle says the mind is a tool, not your identity. The problem is not thought itself. Thought is useful for planning, solving problems, and communicating. The problem begins when thought becomes compulsive, when it runs all day without your permission and turns life into a continuous inner commentary. You can notice this in ordinary moments. You sit quietly, but the mind is already somewhere else. It is defending you in an imaginary argument. It is rehearsing a future problem. It is telling you that you are behind, unsafe, misunderstood, or incomplete. Nothing may be happening in the room, but inside, the mind has created tension. The first doorway into presence is awareness. Instead of fighting every thought, observe it. Notice the voice. Notice the emotion that follows it. Notice the body tightening around it. The moment you can witness a thought, you are no longer completely trapped inside it. This is the beginning of inner freedom, the discovery that there is a quiet awareness behind thinking. A useful way to understand this is to imagine the mind as a screen that never stops playing clips. One clip is regret. Another is planning. Another is comparison. Another is a fantasy conversation where you finally say the perfect thing. The screen may be useful for a few minutes, but when you forget that you are watching a screen, it becomes your world. Tolle's practice is to create a small space between awareness and thought. That space may last only 1 second at first. You notice a worry instead of becoming it. You notice irritation before speaking from it. You notice the urge to escape the moment into your phone, food, work, or another problem to solve. That small space is the beginning of choice. This matters because the ego lives through identification. It says, my opinion is me, my wound is me, my success is me, my failure is me, my story is me. Presence loosens that grip. You still have a personality, history, and responsibilities, but they are no longer the whole of who you are. The second lesson is that psychological suffering usually comes from resisting the present moment. Pain exists. Loss, illness, uncertainty, and difficulty are part of life. Tolle does not deny that, but he makes a distinction between pain and the extra suffering created by mental resistance. Resistance sounds like, this should not be happening. I cannot stand this. My life is ruined. I need this moment to be different before I can be at peace. Sometimes action is necessary. You may need to leave, speak, repair, decide, or protect yourself. But inner resistance adds a layer of struggle before wise action can even begin. Tolle's alternative is acceptance. Acceptance does not mean approval. It does not mean passivity. It means seeing the facts of this moment without the added argument that reality should already be different. From that clarity, you can act with more intelligence. If something can be changed, change it. If it cannot be changed right now, meet it without creating a second battle inside yourself. The book also introduces the pain body, Tolle's term for accumulated emotional pain that can become active and take over our reactions. You may notice this when a small event triggers a response that feels much bigger than the situation. Someone ignores a message, and suddenly an old fear of rejection wakes up. A partner uses the wrong tone, and years of resentment come alive. A minor inconvenience becomes proof that life is against you. When the pain body is active, it wants more pain. It feeds on drama, blame, conflict, and familiar emotional patterns. The practical move is not to identify with it. Notice it as energy in the body. Feel it without becoming its story. The more conscious you are, the less it can run your behavior. This connects to another central practice. Bring attention into the body. Presence is not only an idea. It is felt. You can sense your hands, your breath, your chest, your feet on the floor. This pulls attention out of repetitive thinking and into direct experience. The body becomes an anchor to now. For Tolle, the present moment is not just a time on the clock. It is the open space in which life appears. When you are fully present, even ordinary things become vivid. A cup of tea, a quiet room, the movement of breath, the face of another person. This is especially helpful during stress. Suppose you are stuck in traffic, waiting for a reply, or dealing with a difficult person. The outer situation may be inconvenient, but much of the suffering comes from the mind insisting that this moment is unacceptable. You can feel the contraction. The body tightens, the breath shortens, and the mind starts looking for someone to blame. Acceptance interrupts that pattern. You acknowledge, this is what is happening right now. From there, the nervous system has room to settle. You may still make a phone call, change a plan, apologize, leave the room, or set a boundary. But the action comes from clarity rather than from inner violence. The book's language is spiritual, but the experience is practical. Everyone knows the difference between reacting from a storm and responding from steadiness. Presence is the training of that steadiness. The third lesson is about time. Tolle is not saying we should never use clock time. Appointments, plans, learning, and practical goals all require time. The problem is psychological time, living through memory and anticipation so completely that the present becomes only a stepping stone. Psychological time says, when I finally get there, I will be whole. When I fix the past, I will be free. When I become more successful, more admired, more secure, then life can begin. But if your identity depends on a future moment, peace is always postponed. The mind can always invent another condition. There will always be one more thing that must happen first. The power of now asks you to reverse the order. Do not wait for peace as the result of perfect circumstances. Bring presence to the circumstances you have. Then act from there. This changes relationships too. Many relationships are filtered through need, fear, and projection. We want others to complete us, validate us, or protect us from loneliness. When they fail, we blame them for disturbing a peace we did not have. Presence makes love less possessive. When you are not using another person to complete your identity, you can meet them more clearly. You can listen without immediately defending. You can notice your reactions before turning them into conflict. You can give attention, which is one of the deepest forms of love. Tolle also speaks about surrender. In everyday language, surrender can sound like giving up. In this book, it means giving up inner opposition to what already is. It is a movement from tension to openness. Surrender does not remove responsibility. It removes the ego's argument with reality. Once that argument drops, action becomes cleaner. You are no longer acting from panic, resentment, or the need to prove yourself. You are responding to life as it is. So what is the practical takeaway from the power of now? First, watch the mind. When thoughts appear, do not automatically believe them. Ask, is this useful, or is it only noise? Second, return to the body. Feel the breath, the hands, the feet, the space around you. Let direct experience interrupt compulsive thinking. Third, accept the present before you act. Reality is already here. Fighting that fact wastes energy you could use for clear action. Fourth, notice emotional pain as it wakes up. Do not feed it with more story. Give it awareness. And fifth, stop making the future responsible for your peace. Use the future for planning, but do not live there. A simple test for the whole book is this. When the next uncomfortable moment arrives, can you meet it before naming it? Before calling it unfair, boring, frightening, or wrong, can you feel the raw fact of it? A breath, a sensation, a sound, a person in front of you. This tiny pause is where the teaching becomes real. The deepest promise of this book is not that your life will become problem-free. It is that you can discover a dimension of yourself that is deeper than problems. Thoughts come and go. Emotions rise and fall. Circumstances change. But awareness is here. The present moment may look ordinary, but for Tolle, it is the doorway to freedom. One warning is important. The message of the book can be misunderstood as a command to never think, never feel, or never care about the future. That is not the point. The point is right relationship. Use thought when thought is needed. Feel emotion when emotion is present. Make plans when planning is useful. But do not let any of these become your prison. A practical daily exercise is simple. Several times a day, pause for 10 seconds. Do not try to become spiritual. Just notice. What is the mind saying? What emotion is in the body? What sounds are here? What does the breath feel like? For those few seconds, let the moment be enough. Over time, this changes the texture of life. You may still have problems, but you do not have to become every problem. You may still feel pain, but you can meet it with awareness. You may still plan for tomorrow, but you can stop abandoning today. If you enjoyed this summary, subscribe to One Book in 10 Minutes. We turn the world's most valuable books into clear, practical lessons you can use in real life. One book, 10 minutes. Better you.